Have you ever seen something from the corner of your eye that wasn't there when you looked again? How about hearing from a friend of a friend that while they were hiking somewhere, they thought they saw something impossible? When they spoke to a ranger, there was always a simple explanation that left you unsatisfied. My name is Chris, and I'm here with my colleague Jack, and we're senior wardens for the Creature Conservation Initiative. We protect the world from the creatures of superstition and myth, but more importantly, protect those same creatures from the world. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. Is it a show? Do we call it a show? I don't know. Welcome to the podcast. With me is surprisingly my colleague Jack. Jack, how are you doing today? Are you ready for this?
I was doing great, and then you started going into an existential crisis for me about whether it's a show or a podcast. So now I'm sitting here going, is it a show? Is it a podcast? I'm going to go with podcast. But yeah, no, I'm now sitting there.
You know how I am. I can't start the day without a juicy existential crisis, so yeah.
We are millennials.
That's true. That's true. So, let's not stall around too much and get into it, I'd say. Today is a little bit of a follow-up of our weather investigation, not necessarily because they were likely culprits, but yeah, just looking into wind creatures and weather creatures, it kind of reminded me of them, and them, in this case, are the Sylphs. Have you heard of those?
Not really, actually. Might have heard of them in passing and things, but in general, not really been one of my investigations. So that's pretty cool. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so they don't really do too much usually, so that's why we don't have to deal with them very often. The Sylphs are one of a group that is usually referred to as elemental creatures. So they are kind of not quite corporeal creatures. They are creatures of air. The name actually comes from the word silver in Latin, I think, plus nymph. So they kind of mushed that together to arrive at Sylph. And so that's basically roughly translates to forest nymph. And you can see where it comes from, like a breeze going through the forest, something like that, maybe. Some whispering in the trees, but nothing to see really. Kind of like that vibe. And yeah, as I said, they are they are part of a group of creatures which all pertain to one element. Of course, not in the sense of the periodic table, but more like the classical elements like earth, water, air, fire.
Oh god, could you imagine if you were having to deal with the elemental creature of uranium? That just came into my head.
That'd be an interesting one, but I wouldn't be too surprised if something like this exists, actually, because, back in the day, people were not too familiar with all the kind of physical forces and stuff that's going on, so they basically only looked at, these four classical elements.
Yeah.
But beyond that, we've noticed in recent years that there are elemental spirits of other physical forces and stuff like that. So we've seen actually creatures that are highly attached to stuff like electromagnetism, gravity, all kinds of stuff. So it seems like there are beings for almost every universal force that exists, and certain other elements or really physical or natural properties.
Yeah, there are definitely a fair few creatures out there that seem to thrive off of. Is thrive the right word? Thrive's the word I'm going with. But they seem to thrive off of kind of the natural elements that exist in the world. As you say, things like electromagnetism. Some of them seem to be kind of connected around gravity and the use of, use. They like using gravity, but they seem to enjoy it and different forces and impact. And, there's so much out there.
Yeah. It's almost like they are kind of embodiments of these elements because they always have kind of similar properties almost. Like the Sylphs, for example, belonging to air, they are invisible, they float around, and the gnomes, for example, which is a classical name for the earth elementals, they can move through the earth and stuff like that, and they're not hindered by that at all. The salamanders obviously can start fires and very much like to do so, and the list goes on.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of dealing with the salamanders myself, but I just don't like being in hot climates, and
yeah, I get it.
Even they can make a hot climate in the Arctic, for God's sakes, but that's not what we're talking about today. So
yeah. The worst combination is if you have salamanders and undines in one place, so the water elementals, because that's just the humidity. It kills me.
It's like the worst sauna ever.
Yeah, but we're kind of drifting off topic again, but you should probably be used to that by now. Now, what else can I say? The Sylphs, or the elementals in general, have first really been described, as far as we can tell, by Paracelsus, who was a Swiss-German physician, but actually he was Roman, apparently. I'm not too much into the history of that, so don't nail me down on what nationality he belonged to, but anyway, he was a physician and alchemist, because that was a real job back then, and he wrote about different elemental beings and described them somewhat accurately, somewhat embellished in other parts. You know how it is in historical documents about these things.
Yeah, well, again, they've got to keep it interesting, and it's usually for it to be even any of these kind of stories to be even slightly taken on by the masses.
Yeah.
To explain the stuff that you couldn't explain, usually you had to involve some form of religion. So there's always a bit of hyperbole in there.
Exactly. And in addition to that, there's just the amount of hearsay, because chances are that Paracelsus himself didn't really see half of the creatures he was talking about, but was working off of stories from other people. So, so that's how you get a lot of accrued, is that the right word? Anyway,
accrued knowledge.
You get a lot of error in there.
Accrued knowledge, and usually a lot of it was fake.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, he actually put down the Sylphs as the closest to humans of the elemental beings, because that is a weird kind of classification system, but he said they burn in fire, they drown in water, and they get stuck in the earth. So obviously that makes them very similar to humans.
Okay. I mean, the first two, yes. I don't know that many humans who, I mean, obviously people do get stuck in the earth, but I don't know that many people who get stuck in the earth regularly that you would class that as anything, in the same way that, when someone puts their hand in fire, they get burnt.
It's true. I think it's meant in the sense that they can't move through the earth.
Okay.
As in, it's a physical obstacle to them. But either way, it's a very thin system of classification.
Yeah, I don't think we're bringing that one back for the scientific community.
Not really. I was kind of surprised you didn't hear too much about them, because they are kind of famous. It seems like, and there's something about their connection to nature which seems to inspire a lot of people. So they are very often depicted in art, in writing, in video games and whatnot. Anything that deals with any fantasy or natural themes very often has the Sylphs and other elemental creatures in them. Even Tolkien apparently mentioned them, at least in passing somewhere.
So that's what those kind of things are based off of, because I've heard the name Sylph. I didn't really know so much about the creature Sylph, but I will admit, I genuinely thought that was just something made up for a lot of, fiction, but no. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I mean, most of the modern stuff is kind of made up actually, but it's all kind of rooted in the actual creatures, and that is mostly because they kind of tend to stay amongst themselves. Really, they don't mess with humans too much usually, so we don't. Unless, you're working in our kind of environment, but normal people don't have too many experience with them. That's kind of why most of the depictions kind of root themselves in the original Paracelsus, but he didn't really describe them in all too much detail, and then they have this kind of foundation of creature belongs to element and then build upon that. So we have a lot of variations in media and art today, but it's all kind of rooted in these creatures.
That's cool. I like that idea. But so, how did Paracelsus actually describe them?
As I said, he didn't do very much. So there's the basically the physical properties, like they are beings of air. They are usually invisible, just like we can see through air, we can see through the sylphs, unless they kind of want to be seen. They can do this kind of thing where they I guess they kind of control the airflow in certain ways around their shape. I'm not quite sure how they do it, but the end result kind of looks like if you've ever seen the air like shimmer on a hot day.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like that effect, but in a vaguely humanoid shape. So they can kind of make themselves visible like that if they want to.
Oh, that sounds like an absolutely excellent way to also go unseen.
And definitely.
Yeah, like if you can't really, if they hang around in a hot climate, it's very easy to mistake.
Yeah, I mean, and that's only if they want to be seen. Usually, they are just completely invisible most of the time. So
just completely transparent. Okay.
Yeah, they really kind of go where they want to go and do what they want to do. They are intelligent, but they don't really seem to want to interact with us too much. They understand when you talk to them, but I don't think I've ever heard one of them actually verbalize any answer or other parts of speech, really.
Okay, so they are pretty. I don't want to say isolationist, because obviously they're moving. They appear to be able to quite happily move among us unseen, but they are pretty. What's the word I'm looking? Solitary.
Yeah.
Or do they live in groups themselves?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. They're kind of aloof, or at least it comes across that way. And
there's a special word for it.
I mean, some people have described it as arrogant, but I think that's kind of unfair, because I don't think it's on purpose, really. It's kind of like they just live a very different life.
Would you almost say capricious?
I'm not sure what that means, to be honest, so it's a definite maybe.
For safety's sake, if you don't know what it means, you never agree.
Exactly.
No. Yeah. Okay, well, yeah, capricious, kind of like follow their own whims regardless of what we're doing.
Yeah, that checks out. So,
all right.
Yeah, there have been reports where they have actually communicated with people, but it's very rare. The Sylphs, they kind of have the spectrum of behavior, just like air or wind in nature has their kind of extremes, going from mild breeze to disastrous storm. That kind of...
Yeah, you could almost say like emotions. You could almost attribute them to emotions, couldn't you?
Yeah, kind of. And that is very true for the Sylphs as well. So they can be very mild-mannered and very friendly and unassuming. And then they can also be very disruptive, and destructive is probably the word I was more looking for.
Okay.
And the biggest issue about that is that they are kind of unpredictable. So again, that kind of ties into the wind or elemental nature of it. It kind of, you don't always know what they are going to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they can be very, very dangerous, and
Yeah.
it's
They
basically not something we can ever really predict by the sounds of it.
Yeah, that kind of checks out. So most of the time it's fine, but
Okay.
yeah, if you piss one off too much, then yeah, you might suddenly find yourself in a very nasty and very localized storm, and that can range anywhere from mildly annoying to actually physically dangerous, depending on what gets thrown around.
Okay, so everyone out there, just remember, when you get a twister or a hurricane in your area, it's because you've been nasty to the Sylphs.
It's true. Absolutely. 100%. No restrictions to that statement whatsoever.
Yep. Your country has offended the Sylphs, and you should feel bad.
Yeah.
Disclaimer, your country has not offended the Sylphs. You should not feel bad.
Well, your country has probably offended the Sylphs at some point, let's be honest.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah.
It's not hard to offend half these creatures that are intelligent that we ever come across, because of just the massive difference in culture.
Yeah, exactly, definitely. And especially today, with the kind of air pollution going on, they don't really like that. They've kind of, for the most part, either retreated into more rural areas or, kind of accepted the status quo, but they really don't like what we are putting into the air sometimes, and yeah, that has led to issues in the past, but that's another topic, really.
Wow. I mean, I was just sitting there thinking, as you said, about the retreating to the more rural areas. Would the power kind of that they can create with essentially their control of the wind, shall we just say, just to make it nice and easy, could they take down buildings?
Probably not a single one of them. If enough of them group together, I can imagine that they might be able to do something like that.
I can see it. It sounds to me like we're quite lucky they have adapted to a certain way.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing they probably have a limit to how much they're willing to put up with.
Yeah, definitely. So we should keep an eye out for that, because at some point that might turn into more problems. But there are also other reasons to shut down coal and whatever else is getting blown into the air. So hopefully we're moving in the right direction anyway, and we won't go into full-out war with the Sylphs.
Well, I mean, the Sylphs are just one of them. You've got to think of, again, all the other elemental creatures.
Yeah, that's true.
Last thing we need to do is start a war with the elements.
Yeah. I mean, some of them are at least more easy to talk with, so so far we've been able to deal with everything, but yeah, there have been some what shall we call it?
Tense meetings?
Relationships have been strained. Let's say that.
That sounds like a really nice way of saying it.
Yeah. Yeah, what else can I tell you? There's really not that much to say about them, really, beyond what I've told you already. They are a lot of the times confused with fairies, or kind of people report angel sightings, because they kind of have this ethereal nature to them, and
all right.
If people try to explain what they see with their belief system, you get stuff like must have been an angel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Also, fun fact: you have probably breathed in some of them quite often in your life, and you didn't even realize.
Oh God, that's concerning.
Yeah, it very much is.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
Oh God, how bad is negotiations with them? Do people have to randomly they have to turn around and tell us, stop it? You've just breathed in Derek.
I mean, I can. I'm not gonna name any names, but a certain warden has in the past breathed in some ambassador, and yeah, It was.
Why do we keep sending you on diplomatic missions?
It wasn't me. This one time, it wasn't actually me. I just.
We keep sending you on diplomatic missions. There's Santa. There's the mermaids. Quetzalcoatl.
I just breathed in the waitress. I did not breathe in the ambassador.
God damn it. Oh. The thing that concerns me the most is they're sending you on these missions, and they're not even telling me about them, so God knows what they think I'm going to do.
Well, the Santa escapade wasn't a good look for both of us, I guess.
True. Yeah. As much as I take the mickey out of you for it, it's... Yeah. I didn't exactly stop it from happening.
Yeah. I mean... We're quite lucky to be as seasoned as we are, so we can get away with some stuff and still get deployed, because who else are they gonna send?
Fair enough. No, well, yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm assuming at this point we're getting to the part where you're going to tell us about an interaction with them.
Yes.
As the podcast format goes, apparently.
As it goes, that is actually what we are going to do. And yeah, as I said before, we don't usually deal with them too much because they are off doing their own thing in the forest or whatever. But yeah, there's one time somewhere deep in Texas. Once upon a time, there was a belching competition called Belchfest. And
okay.
Side note, Warren Johnson has apparently won that 4 times in the past. I don't think he's competing anymore, but he wanted me to mention that. Anyway.
Okay.
In this particular year, Belchfest, or rather the qualification phase leading up to that, because yes, there's a qualification phase. They take it very seriously, and
you have to in that field. It's a highly competitive athletic sport.
Exactly. And yeah, during that phase, it kind of got our attention because there were a lot of angel sightings, and
yeah, certainly something we'd pick up on.
Definitely, and I was kind of in the area because of, you might remember, the great incident of 2017. So,
yeah, which one?
Yeah, that's a sad truth, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, I had just finished dealing with that, so I was kind of in the area and was sent over to, just look around and see if there's anything weird going on that is relevant to us. So yeah, I go over there, I talk with people, I drive around some tiny towns because everything is in the middle of nowhere there, and I talk to enough people, and I get a pretty good feeling that what was happening was that there was a captive Sylph involved somehow, and someone was apparently using it to cheat at this belching competition, breathing them in, and
how does one catch a Sylph?
I'll get to that.
All right, good.
It is at the same time quite hard, but also not.
Okay.
But the reason that this was kind of important to deal with was, on one hand, of course, we don't want any of these creatures to be kept against their will. So,
no.
To the best of my knowledge about what they are like and how they deal with humans, I was pretty sure that this was not a voluntary cooperation going on there.
No, doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, and even if it was, we have had similar techniques happen in the past, and sometimes they result in anything from injury to death. So,
it rarely ends well.
Yeah. You can imagine if you have an air elemental being that can create massive wind force in your airways, that can very easily lead to destroyed throats and lungs and whatnot. So it's usually not a good idea to play around with.
No, definitely not. It's definitely not safe.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into the details because that is gonna take too long otherwise. But end of the story was that to find out who it actually was, I had to actually join the qualification phase and then participate in Belchest myself, which was kind of hard because I'm one of those people who never figured out how to do that on command. So I actually had to phone back home, and we have some sylphs hanging around our base who are
Ambassadors.
who
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
kind of befriended, and yeah, not the ambassadors. They are they have a
Not the
stick up
ambassadors.
their ethereal butt about things like
Yeah.
that. But yeah,
Would you say they've got a bit of a stick up the windpipe?
Jesus Christ. Yeah,
Sorry, I couldn't help it.
it's fine. I'm just gonna.
I couldn't let that joke breeze on past.
Oh god, I never find the delete podcast button when I need it. Anyway, let's move swiftly on.
Probably best.
To make it short, they sent over a sylph that was kind of good to work with, and he actually helped me compete in this Belchfest thing, which was very uncomfortable because I breathed in some of them before, but never on purpose, and kind of knowing that they are inside of your lungs is it's a very disturbing thought.
Oh god.
Anyway, it worked out very well. I had a sore throat now and then, but I belched the burps of my life, and yeah, the competition
Had the belch of my life. Sorry, I
and
couldn't.
I've never belched like this before. Anyway, God, what an episode. Anyway,
Yeah, what an episode.
yeah, I was kind of taking part in this thing, and at some point I was relatively certain I had pegged down who was the offending person there.
Yeah.
Because obviously, even when I was not actually competing myself, I was watching the other contestants, and I noticed that
Yeah. How do you improve? How do you improve if you don't watch your competition?
exactly, you have to analyze their techniques, their weaknesses, their strengths. You have to get in the game, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was as I was getting in the game, I realized that one of them who was, he was among the favorites and was very strong. And I noticed that look closely. At some point, I realized that he had this little kind of glass jar, which was seemingly empty, but he kept fiddling around with it when it was his turn. And
Like a fart in a can. That kind of
something
thing.
like that. Yeah, it turned out that he had actually managed to capture a part of a sylph in that glass and was kind of blackmailing the sylph to help him with this competition because he had control of part of its body.
All right.
From that point out, I had a great plan, and I was actually, because of the whole incident shenanigans, I had a trainee with me and told him to look how the professionals do it, and
Oh god.
yeah, I managed to move on into the final round, and I faced off against our culprit. And yeah, when we were both on stage, I just made short work of it. Took out a little, these telescopic batons that we have, and they're
Yeah.
not usually used for that kind of stuff, but I pulled that out of my pockets, and I had seen where he kept his little glass jar and basically just smashed the glass. So,
Fair. Subtle as ever.
yeah, and that's where absolute chaos ensued because,
Oh god.
yeah. So the Sylph was now free, but was very pissed off and wanted revenge. So was kind of restricting this guy's ability to breathe.
Excellent. Good start.
Lock down his airways, kind of. The people around me thought that I was just randomly attacking this guy and that he was now struggling to breathe because of my my strikes. So I was suddenly being restrained by security and police was being called. And yeah, while I was being restrained, I was trying my best to not let this dude die, because that's not really how we roll. So I kind of tell my quotation marks Sylph to go over there and try to calm down the other one. And yelled at the trainee at the time. I'm not gonna name any names because I don't think he actually works with us anymore.
Yeah, strange.
Yeah.
Watch this, kid.
Watch this, kid. Yeah. I told him to make sure that we don't lose the guy or lose track of the guy, because we actually do want him to face some kind of justice for the entire thing. We just don't want it to be the death penalty. And yeah, so there was suddenly in handcuffs, getting moved away, and last thing I realized on site was I heard the most unholy belch that I've ever heard, which kind of at a volume I've never heard before, and it kind of turned into a scream at the end. And I managed to look around, and I just saw this guy spitting out blood and crawling around on the guy. So I can only assume that the Sylph, just kind of ripped up his throat and or vocal cords or whatever the hell.
Yeah. Have you ever wondered why some of the people we have to, take down, shall we say, or, confiscate or repossess things from or anything like that, any of the creatures, why they do it? Because, I mean, in this case, this guy did it to win a belching contest.
Well, as I said, they take belch fest very seriously.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to tell you. People are stupid.
People are strange, for certain.
People are strange. Yeah, but that was basically my encounter. That was also the last day of that trainee. He figured out he wanted to do a different career from then on. I managed to, from the jail cell, I found myself in to call our legal emergency number in the area and got our lawyer to bail me out. But that was my exciting escapade to Belchfest 2017. So,
well, fair enough. But do you know anywhere where people can also have an exciting escapade too?
Well, the most exciting escapade of all is probably our Discord. It's a place of wonder. It's a place of elemental internet creatures. Some of them might be humans, some of them might not. You'll never know. You just see text on the screen. So you should just follow the link in our episode description and check it out.
Yep, and also at the same time, if you have enjoyed what we've done here today, lucky for you, there are lots more. We've got a pretty decent back catalogue, and they're all pretty much evergreen, so you don't have to listen to them in order, although do be aware there are a few little in-jokes here and there. And also, what else would we like them to do? I'm struggling to think.
Well, what else could you do? You could probably subscribe to us so you don't miss out on future episodes. You
Sounds
could
good.
Give us a rating, preferably a good one, but
engagement is engagement.
Engagement is engagement. We're not the police, although we will hunt you down if you do anything less than 5 stars.
Yeah, we've got your IP address. But,
Jesus Christ.
But on that note, I don't think there's really anything else left to say.
Yeah, I think you are right. So, see you in the next episode, and goodbye.
Goodbye.